Okay, and we're live again, Mario. Welcome,
Yeah,
everyone. Hey, how are
good to
you?
be here, man. Good to be here. Looking
Okay,
forward to learning.
today we got some groundbreaking moments here. This will be our first day streaming primarily for JavaScript Live. Hold the applause. Okay, do the applause. Turn my Nothing's playing right now. Google is.
Damn.
Let's go ahead and hit stop and restart, and I'll delete this off all the walls.
Go ahead and
Um,
back it up.
So, folks, I'm your host, Chad, and this is Mario, my boss. He just got promoted 5 minutes ago, telling me what to do. So, we're gonna, whatever he wants to do today, it's gonna be Mario's day, officially a holiday on Sunday.
Nice.
Um, Mario's got some really cool stuff that we're gonna check out, something called Replit, and I think we're probably saying that right. And we're gonna look into some JavaScript. As many of you know, we're streaming out over quite a few channels on Facebook and YouTube, and JavaScript is the core ingredient in a lot of that we do out there, and we're all learning every day. I mean, that's just the nature of being a developer. So we have different reasons to learn JavaScript. Some of us are building projects, some of us want to do it professionally, maybe sometimes both. But there's this, the ECMAScript 6 is a standard now, ES6, and there's some areas that I know that I could get stronger at. And Mario is also coming over to the websites of the development, so I've convinced him to let's do this JavaScript Live episode. So how exciting!
Yep. So let's go ahead and refresh everybody's memory on where I'm coming from. I was
Mhm.
one of six people on the planet that never learned any web development 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So uh, I'm trying to remedy that. I'm really aiming to shore up my basics. ES6, I can totally hack at it, but when I do that, professionals tend to cringe. And so they're like, buddy, you need to get some basics, some foundations going, source control, naming conventions, follow the conventions that are set as the standard by the ES6 folks out there. So that's what I'm here for, to up my game on. And we're gonna try and use Replit today because I'm also one of the few people that doesn't have a second monitor, and that means we can't share screens and be a little more efficient right now. So hey, who knows? Maybe one of those Black Friday deals is still out there.
Black Friday deal. So that's a great intro to where we're at with your learning path. Me, I'm going to say that I've been using JavaScript a long time, but that I've more recently realized that it's time to even give it more attention about rounding out with the language because there's so much you can do with the older stuff of JavaScript, Mario, that nowadays there's methods that are a little bit easier to use. You could write less code and you could use the more modern pieces in the language and, have more features.
Hmm.
So string manipulation, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing in any of the programming languages and to some degree working with objects and whatnot. But whatever it is, we're pushing text to the screen, right? When it becomes HTML, JavaScript, or CSS, it's rendered to the screen, and it's text. So that's probably not the best intro about JavaScript, but we both know where we stand as developers. And
Yep.
I really want to take a chance to say like that this is pretty much we're just going to claim that every episode we do is it's about you and me on a journey learning to be through development, right? And I've got
Yep.
some background. I'm going to help you, and we're going to learn together. So many times we're going to run into things that I have probably haven't used for maybe a couple months, or it's been a little while since I've hacked on a method like that. But I'll have some memory of it, but I'll need a refresher. So I think I'll be a great journeyman to help you through your learning path, and I'll also learn with you. So go ahead and smash my like button and subscribe and I appreciate you very much. So that's been a great show. That's our joke. We're out of here. No, um, no, but yeah, JavaScript's a big language and it's evolving, right? And let's tackle it from the basics. So I think it's important that we ask Google, who's over here. Hey Google, what is ES6?
Here's a summary from the website makeoisof.com. ES6 refers to version 6 of the ECMA script programming language. ECMA script is the standardized name for JavaScript, and version 6 is the next version after version 5, which was released in 2011. ECMAScript, or ES6, was published in June 2015.
Man, something about that voice, I almost go right to sleep. I don't know what it is, man. Just it's like, is that what our future is going to be like? Just me conking out. But we got that. Good job, Google. Hey, Google. Good job. She's going to say thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
All right.
All right. So again, I don't expect a lot from this episode. I think that it's good if we just pretend that we don't have thousands of people watching us, and let's just have fun.
Let's do it.
So starting right
I've
now, what do you
been
know
I've
about?
always been about that.
So let's talk about before we pull up ES6, before we do anything, I'm just going to stare at you in this camera longingly and ask you, um, are you familiar with scope and block scope, function scope? Like, and I don't want to catch you off guard. I'm kind of learning to be a little more dialogue-ish with JavaScript, but are you familiar with that stuff?
Yeah, I have a basic grasp of it from the other languages I've used if they're similar to it. So, yeah, within a function, if you declare a variable, it's only within that function or scope of that function. If you declare one outside that function, it's going to be different. If it's named the same, it's going to have a different value if you assign it outside of that function and inward. So, yeah, some of the reminder links you sent off when you were doing some pop quizzes on the React channel in Discord kind of threw me for a loop. There are some interesting cases out there. So
Oh,
yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
some basic ones.
Yeah, I think that the scope, no pun intended, the scope of this video right now, before we do a cut and go on to doing project, or we do an intercut where we do like a live video inside of the video, where I do a local record. This is really about you getting a chance to learn and me using my hands to talk. I just love doing that. So, what is a function scope? I Googled it, and it's saying by default, right? Human speak here. All variables created inside of functions are scoped to that function.
Perfect.
They have what is also called function scope or local scope. Okay? And then variables created outside of any curly brackets are in the global scope, but they are still local to that level of scope. So I guess that we could think about them as containers. And just to kind of remind you and sort of me talking it out with analogies, the web browser has a thing called the window object. And when you want to talk about any object in the page, even the body tag, it's going to be document. It's going to be like window. Let me just look it up before I start saying it wrong. Which one goes bigger? Document.window? I think so. So let's see, document.window. And the window object, yeah, a document window is a section of the screen used to display the contents of a document. And so shorthand sometimes we could say like document.getElementById. And then the window object is the global namespace. You could think about that container, and I could be wrong here, but we're learning to talk through this.
Hmm.
But that global namespace where you instantiated a variable outside of braces, it still has a tray, and it's considered a global. And we talked about it the other day about globals are bad. They're not bad, but they're just for larger applications where you're going to work with other developers or the application serves an entire company and does tons of things. You wouldn't want to quote unquote pollute the global namespace with like variables like object or obj or main or foo or I or any of the variables that we all might use, just even variables that are dynamically generated by compilers like A through Z, right? That they use, sometimes you'll see like stuff that's been transpiled. You wouldn't want all of that to just dump into the main handbasket there because you eventually might run into a collision. And I can tell you that I never really believed in that stuff so much until I started. I always did. I knew it was a best practice, but until I had a job working for a CTO who never tested his stuff in iframes, but everybody was grabbing his application and serving it through iframes. And so, what I really want you to understand about that, are you familiar with the iframe tag or frame sets?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So that'll give us a good bearing of where we're at. I would recommend maybe Googling it on your end too, but a lot of times when you see a web page inside of a web page or an HTML frame set which are deprecated, iframes are really popular. Let's take a look at that, and it'll help you understand where I'm going with this.
Okay.
So an iframe is basically it's an HTML tag that they tried to deprecate, but it was so widely used that they kept it around. It just
Hmm.
beat the deprecation police. And depending on who you ask, they're like, it's deprecated. No, it's part of the spec, and I haven't even looked, and maybe we should. But when you make an iframe tag, you can put the URL of another web page in it, much like a container, like a div. You're familiar with divs, right? The
Yep.
division tag. So instead of a div tag, you have an iframe tag. And you can put a bunch of iframes on a web page, and you can think about maybe an application like TweetDeck or others where there's like, oh, hey, there's a little site in here, there's a little site here, there's my tweets right there, and they're all from other URLs. The iframe tag is a very popular way to load up a web page inside of your web page.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we can play around with it here in Replit, and maybe I won't just go all over the road. But my point about frame sets were they were deprecated over a decade ago, but there's this world called the enterprise space, right? And you work for companies, you work for Qualcomm, they are considered enterprise. And specifically, when they deploy a vendor's website, like let's say they bought a copy of artificialgalaxies.com, and you're like, hey, you guys want to check out space over there at Qualcomm, so you buy my system. Well, the first thing they're going to do is ask you to do an integration for single sign on so that people inside their company only have to log on once and they'll be sessioned into your application.
Hmm.
Another thing they're going to do is they're going to frame you in, meaning at the top of their intranet, their internal internet, there's a nice bar with all the links to go to accounting, to go to HR, to go to artificial galaxies. We'll use your project as an example, but these are called dashboards, right? And they frame other sites in. So my point about the global namespace was I worked for a CTO where he wrote JavaScript and he actually wrote global. He had a variable called global, and he actually didn't care that he was assigning it to the global namespace because it was his application, and it never going to have a problem because he tested in Chrome and he tested maybe he checked IE, but he didn't even check IE. The problem was is that all the users in the enterprise space are stuck on IE and they're stuck in frames. So what happened was is he started writing code where he was like he automatically assumed that if he went window dot global, which was the name of his variable, that his JavaScript code manipulating values out of window dot global would give
Hmm.
him what he wanted. But what he didn't realize was that the minute someone framed his site into a frame set, meaning that you've got more than one, you're no longer the root window.
Hmm.
You have a collision. In fact, you have a collision not with anything. So all of a sudden, his code where it was like window.global equals value for session ID, whatever he was doing, the interpreter, the browser, since IE9 on, was like, oh, he means window.global. He means window, my parent window. And because of cross domain security, like domain A and domain B are protected from each other,
Hmm.
his application would break. Single sign on didn't work, all kinds of things didn't work. Now, the solution, because he was using global variables, was to now use self.global. He happened to call the variable global. He could have called it foo. It didn't matter. But the way he coded his application was to be like, hey, this is my world and I want to use globals. And I called it global. All really very bad practices because by the time his app got served into a corporate environment, it broke. And people were upset, man. So that's where the point of the why it's a good practice not to use globals, because even in that scenario, window.global variable is a tray that if you get framed, you may not even have control over that. Like if someone frame sets you in or iframes you in, and they're trying to like, and you have internal code that's like, hey, I'm the root window, so I use globals. You are going to get in trouble with window.global namespace variables. That's why we talked a little bit about encapsulating your variables that you use inside of functions, inside of a function scope. And there's other practices that we'll learn through together. Again, I don't want to talk like I'm like a JavaScript guru. I've been using it a long time. There's some good practices. I hope that story bored everybody out there because it was really boring to hear me tell it. But there's real reasons why we don't
No,
want to.
that really provides value in the entire scope. That was a good progression as to why scope matters. Especially, you don't think about that. You think, oh, it works on mine, even though I called it global, so it has to work everywhere. Well,
Yeah,
not always. Then, like you said,
yeah, and mostly because he used the term window. So
mm-hmm.
window, when we go let's do a little bit of JavaScript here on Replit. It says Chad has, yeah, it says Chad has no REPLs yet.
Why don't you create a new one and invite old Mario on into it?
Okay. Remember, I'm older than you, man. So let's not give away private
Mr.
data
Chad,
online.
please.
I've got a whole, all my face skin is sucked up into a hairband in the back over here. So finally, I got you to laugh. It only took 72 hours of
No, I've
live.
always been laughing, but I keep it on the inside because I'm trying to maintain a professional appearance with
This is
source
this.
control and global. I'm a professional, homie.
So offline, Mario and I were talking about the benefits and the annoyances about source control sometimes, and when you're new, sometimes you want to learn language code before you go learning all the configuration management. And I'm with you on a lot of things where I've joined projects where the configuration management of the application overtakes just building stuff. And but source control is a very important piece. Look at this, github.com/user/repo is optional. So we can include source control with this, but for now we're just going to go what the industry calls cowboy, Wild West.
Ah, yes.
So upgrade my account. I'm going to create the REPL, and
And it
this
gives
is
you a few choices. You can bust it out with React. You can have Node, et cetera, on this Replit site.
awesome. I like it, dude. This must be new because I didn't see that you could do that before.
Source
Horizontal.
control, by the way.
How do I do a share? I do an invite now, and
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
search. What's your username, boss? Let's.
Mario Roberti, capital M, capital R.
Oh, does that matter?
I don't know, but it shows up on my side, so why
Well,
not?
let's have a long speech about that. And back in '72, when I was dealing with iframes, oh God, that's a. I invited you. But I mean, I think if anything can people can learn out there is you're always going to run into people who have taken the boot camps, learned the latest and greatest, and you can tell that they haven't really worked in the enterprise space because every company is at its own time frame in space. Not everybody can refactor their whole $1 million application that they built for 5 years straight to React. They want to. Anything new they start building, but as a developer, you're going to run into code that was written for 10 years ago and you're gonna have to deal with old browsers too. So I added you, boss.
All right, let's take a look. I just got a notification. Someone invited me to collaborate.
I just can't believe how good my skin looks on this screen. I think from now on I'm just gonna live on video. I look amazing.
Dude. And
Feeling
then here
good.
I am, the pink monster. I don't know what the deal is with my camera. I might need to send it back and get a new one.
Yeah, and whatever you're doing, your lips look like they don't match your audio. It looks like you like it's like blah, 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 and it does not match. Oh,
Well,
that
Jen,
worked.
however you think you find.
Do my is my the words coming out of my mouth matching
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Okay.
you're matching. Good for you, man.
Good, dude. Okay, sir, I'm seeing a index.html file. What are you seeing on your end,
I'm seeing an
Capitan?
index.html file. I see you typing down there at the bottom. Oh, you're going up a few lines. Homie, we're typing at
Oh,
the same
wow.
time. Like you said, it couldn't be done. What? Test. Oh, no. You see me putting in there? Do you see my test showing up?
Yeah, and I do. I see a test of my patience. But
Oh,
are we talking to the crowd or are we talking to each other? Let's just make it about you and me. And if anybody watches, they can subscribe on our JavaScript Live because, and
this
all
is
our, yeah,
this is all for me, man. This is all for me learning. So if other people jump on in and get something out of it, great. Otherwise, it doesn't matter because again, all about me
good,
and
man.
ES6.
Do you think that there's aliens though? We talked about that offline. Are they doing JavaScript?
Yeah, definitely, man. I have some pictures
Let's see some
conveniently
pictures.
located right there. Whoa, who's this
Where they
guy
at?
right
Where
here?
they at? Where they at?
Oh, he's coming up.
I'm
Wait for
waiting.
it.
I'm waiting. Don't crash your computer. My God.
I know it's my poor Mac Mini. There's homie,
No, all I see is space.
dude. You're
I
not
will.
sharing my
Well,
screen.
I'm wearing a tablecloth ensemble today while Mario figures out his deal. It's made by the folks in Mexico. It's 9.99, and we're not talking pesos.
Nice.
Yeah, it feels nice. Feeling jazzy.
Lice cap. Well
So,
done.
anybody who ever logs into our shows, just go ahead and switch to about 40 minutes into it where we actually write some code. Um, but we're okay for the React.js folks out there that are new or that they're figuring out how to use React, but they want to understand ES6. That's the mainstay of why we're using JavaScript Live now is to come up to speed on stuff. But Mario needs a little bit of basics. So go ahead and tune out or skip ahead to the video, which doesn't yet exist because we're live, baby. But anyways, just bear with us. You'll learn something, and maybe patience is what I always say. So Mario, I know you can't see my screen, but I want to do something with the window object.
I can see the replit screen though, so let's do it.
Okay, so like, how can we? There's a console tab over on the right,
Yep.
and then we want to basically do some scripting. Now we got a script.js file that's included right there at the bottom,
Yeah.
so we can write code in there. But I'm gonna write just above the head. I'm gonna put some script tags in the head there. And there's benefits to sometimes doing that, but most of the time you'll want to put stuff down by the closing body tag. So I'm also going to put some script tags there, just so that we can just muddy the waters wherever we want. But from a top-down execution point, the browser reads top-down until it's told to do something else. So a lot of times that's why you'll instantiate style ahead of anything that manipulates your style. So that's why you'll see CSS references higher up, usually after the title tag in the head, because it's sort of like from top down. Like think about what would be a good analogy space-wise. Um, Someone gets beamed to the holodeck on Star Trek. A lot of times they start beaming from the top down, so it goes with the head all the way down to the body, right? Now, as they're executing here, the brain of the browser is going to be reading in directives, like the style. It's going to know it. And then if you want to manipulate style dynamically using JavaScript, or you want to sort of decorate stuff, that's when the HTML and everything in the JavaScript is kind of coming into place. So I see we got that sandwich. Don't make me hungry already. So
Yeah.
it's okay to put stuff in the head. Sometimes we'll include jQuery remotely, or we'll include. You can even include React remotely. It just there's some benefits to having it in the head, but a lot of times you'll want to make sure that your HTML is fully loaded. There's methods for that, and we can get into those in a little bit. But one really good trick is to just put your JavaScript just before the closing body tag.
Hmm.
Because you'll know
Okay.
this, you'll know that top down, the browser knows about the CSS. It's kind of like, hey, dude, like think about it like this. Hey, dude, we're gonna build a house dynamically. We're like, okay, before you start building the construction and the two by fours, what's the color gonna be? What kind of doors is it gonna have? Are they gonna have French, blinds? Like, what are the gutters gonna like? And what is the styling gonna be like? And that's where the CSS is pre-rendered, and then the house starts to get constructed because the HTML is getting read in. Now, the dynamic things might be maybe the heating and air conditioner can be programmable, like it renders in as a construction, but you put some logic into it last, and you're like, I want this home to, kind of like when you punch up your, and now my analogy is going way bad, but the JavaScript is where, like a smart home, where it can dynamically open the shades, maybe turn AC on, it's been pre-programmed, it's even got security, like it's watching things, it can listen to things, right? Not the best analogy, but the home is the structure, that's HTML. CSS is the styling, how you paint it and how it looks. It can be manipulated by JavaScript, both the HTML and the CSS can be manipulated. So when we're done first describing that our house is going to be a certain color, a certain style, certain bricks, we did that in cascading style sheets. But then we made the construction of the home with the 2x4s. We painted it up real nice with CSS. Now we want to add intelligence to our smart home. We do that through manipulating with JavaScript. That's the brain. Okay?
Gotcha.
Hold the applause. Human generated. Now let's write some code. For God's sake, man. So if we were to do console.log window, what do you think it's going to say?
I don't know.
What do you think the window thing is? Is it a string?
It's a object, I think, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, so like probably a better question I could have asked would be, what is type of? Like if we use the type of method in the debugger, what do you think we're going to get for the window object?
Window, window.
Well, on your end, you should have saw the output under console.
Oh, I didn't run it. I'm gonna run it. Boom, object.
So I think, and again, remember, I'm not the JavaScript guru that I'm professing to the world that I am, even though I am one of the founders of JavaScript Live. Okay, I, I mean, hey, I've been around. There's no hair under this hat, let me tell you. So, type of window, it's an object. Now, I think someone had told me in JavaScript that almost everything is a function, and that I think pretty much everything in JavaScript is a function to a degree and or object. Now I don't have that figured out completely, but I get that. I get like what I'm trying to say is that even the window object, it's a functional envelope. It's got scope. When we talk about variables, there's a root scope. So I'm gonna just Google that because I feel like a real JERK for saying everything
Hey,
in
this is
JavaScript
this
is
is
an
a
object.
practice. This is like a doctor's medical practice. This is a JavaScript practice. We don't have all the answers. It's all about practice.
So thank you, man. Thank you for letting me off the hook because yeah, I I,
You're all
I
right.
I googled is everything. I misspelled it. Is everything in JavaScript an object? And it says there's
Yes,
actually there's actually a web page for it. That's why I love the Webernet, dude.
dude,
Yes. Oh, you weren't saying dude. You were just okay.
dude.
JavaScript. What?
Good
I'm.
job on Googling that. So let's check it out, man.
It says JavaScript makes an arbitrary distinction between values, primitives, values, and objects. Primitives values include Boolean, numbers, strings, null, and undefined. So that falls into something called primitives. I like it. And it says, while everything else in JavaScript is said to be an object, which means window, JSON,
Ooh, I love
math,
JSON.
Jesus son,
Jesus san, hey san.
math, and even function arrays are objects as well. So I would like to give myself the JavaScript award for not lying. I guessed right. It says even functions and arrays are objects as well. And almost everything in JavaScript they say here is probably considered some sort of a function. Again, I'm not the JavaScript Jesus. Maybe that's even blasphemous to say it, but I know a guy who I call that, and his name is now officially Jesus. JavaScript Jesus. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's his new
yeah, I
name.
think it's
His name's Ivan.
JS Jesus.
I've got something to prove to Ivan to show him that I finally read stuff. He showed me how to use the debugger, how you can call functions and even set values in there, variables and values in there, and test. He's taught me a lot about JavaScript. So when I think about like time to learn JavaScript, I want to bring you into the fold, but I also want to make Ivan proud, the Jesus of
That works
JavaScript.
both ways, man. I think it's win-win.
Okay, so you tell him I'm working on it. All right, so did we learn something there? I'm gonna take that link and I'm gonna put it over here in comments right next to sandwich. Is that cool by you?
I like it.
And I'll put a note there that says I was right. Is that cool?
Yeah, you have my permission and blessing to do that.
Okay, all right. So type of, you saw the little method. It's all lowercase type of. You don't have to wrap it in parentheses. In that case, it's kind of this shorthand. It's assumed that that the type of function is gonna allow you to get the type of whatever's next to it. Okay?
Cool.
So a stupid trick that I saw on Josh Fluke the other day's demos about interview questions was they asked him what would type of window, type of object. In his case, it was
Type of.
yeah. And so type of, and so like 1, 2, 3. Clearly, it's an integer, right? So type of 1, 2, 3. I'll take type of off. You can't see my screen. This is so terrible.
No, I'm
But
seeing it over here. I'm watching it live as you edit. That's why I love Replit, homie.
you love Replit? No, okay. I'm not
Any
gonna
sort
get
of
jealous.
code, any sort of code sharing stuff that makes it easier for me to see you as you're coding is a fantastic tool. Quit appreciating your face, man.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think that if I get my lamb chops looking really good, maybe I can meet the woman of my dreams. So yeah,
She's out there, man.
we're gonna be turning this channel into the hey, do you know any great women who know JavaScript real soon here? And
Conchad and Esposita.
yeah, because I'm single, baby. I don't care. Tell the world. Line 20, console log type of 123 gives us number, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if I was to put quotes around that, not double, but
Easy killer. See, it's
what,
trying to help you.
right?
Now it's going to come up as string.
Yeah. And then what if I did something like that?
Okay, now check this out. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's an array.
Right. So if I
Oh
run,
no, it's a syntax error. Busted. You have too many nuggets in there.
my bad.
Here, let me help you because I'm live coding. Get put it back in there, dang it. There we go. And now I changed it. Yes. Object.
I'm out of
It's an
coffee.
object. You're out of coffee, buddy. You know why it's an object? It's using a JSON type thingy, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know.
JavaScript object notation. That's an object, right?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because JavaScript objects and Java and JSON are not the same thing. They're very similar. So I'll Google that too. Let's ask Google. Hey Google, is JSON and JavaScript objects the same thing?
On the website stackoverflow.com, they say, just like XML and YAML is a way to pass structured information between languages, JSON is the same. A JavaScript object, on the other hand, is a physical type.
I mean,
So it sounds like it's different.
yeah, it is different, but they got some similarities, and you'll run into that where you want to copy and paste. Like a lot of times, JSON is used for APIs. You're consuming a remote destination, an API returns fully qualified JSON. Some of the main objects, some of the same main things you're going to see the differentials are on the name value pairs in the between the braces. Like you'll see, I think, and I might get the two messed up. I think for fully qualified JSON, fully qualified, it's supposed to be double quotes, and both the thing on the left hand side of the colon and on the right hand side of the colon are in quotes. Whereas in a JavaScript object, you might see us put something up not in quotes, and
Mm.
then colon, and then the value is in quotes. So I don't know if it has to be, but there's more to it than that. So now I'm going to Google it. Okay, so is JSON and JavaScript objects the same? Now, what's confusing is sometimes you're working with JavaScript objects and you want to stringify them, and you use JSON stringify, and now you're like, what the hell? Is it not all the same, right? But apparently the JSON stringify method can stringify JavaScript objects too. I believe we learned that the other day. So please hold the phone. Any question or comments?
Uh, I think it might be a good idea to maybe throw in the JSON stringify output in here for those that aren't familiar with it.
Right, but this video is about you and me. So if you're not familiar with
Oh,
it, I'll throw it in for you. But
well,
if
I'm
it's
very familiar with it. So to heck with everybody.
no, we will. But I'm just saying, like, we're learning together because, like, I may know of something, but like, everybody out there, tune off. Go ahead and log off the show. Stop viewing, except for you, Mario.
Okay.
Even though we're live,
Man, I was about to hit stop and bail.
yeah, no. I can't just sit here and look at my beard all day alone.
Oh, you
Um,
barbus.
but let's forget about the beginners out there because we're in some ways we're coming up to speed ourselves. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It is basically a text format that makes it easier to share data between devices such as clients and servers. Now I'm boring myself. Its origin is based on how JavaScript objects work. So in that sense, it is related close to, but not completely, JavaScript object.
All right.
Okay, so sometimes you'll run into some example code that works inside the page, and you're like, this is JavaScript objects. But then you're like, let me throw this in the online JSON prettifier or the online JSON editor, and it'll get mad at you and be like, this is invalid syntax. And you're like, oh, I got to quote all these. Oh, you can't really. There's some slight differences and probably more than what I know. But
Hmm.
let me ask you this. I had a trick question for you, and I'll just let you slide on that.
Dang.
So objects, JavaScript objects, we want to know what those are, and then we also JSON. We want to like know the differences there. Um, yeah, so we got. Let me put this link in here: JSON object versus JSON, and I'll put it in our HTML. It's a nice little article for whoever I said to log off. Maybe they'll come
Oh
back.
man, they logged off already. No, they're gonna probably swing on by and look at the condensed version of this, where we're actually gonna go ahead and save it on out as maybe a good 5 or 10 minutes of clear, concise info
Okay.
from this organic live stream.
Okay. So how about while I go get coffee, I give you a task that's
Create a JavaScript object
yeah.
and do something with it.
Okay, so make a JavaScript a dog object,
Okay.
and we'll make it bark.
All right.
Okay, and you can cheat. You can use the web. You can Google. You can look at an example.
Oh man,
But
thank goodness.
yeah, I'll
Okay.
be right back. I'm gonna go pay some bills, and since I just got a call, and people found out I was single, so I get someone online
Oh,
wanting to.
nice. You're
Yeah,
getting calls already. Well
yeah,
done, bro.
dude. Can you believe it? Hang on.
Right. All right. I'm totally gonna win here. It's gonna be great since Chad's gone. He can't hear me talk mad smack about him. I'll show him. Now, to make JavaScript objects, mm, dog object and a bark. I can't be the again. I can't be the first person to actually do this. So boom. Hmm. 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 Oh. Uh-oh. See somebody here. We're never the first person to do stuff on the web out there. That's definitely what I'm down to show here. So, okay, here's a person. I want to find a dog. There it is. Dog. And I think this is inline, so we could do it here and include it, I believe. Chad's going to come back and yell at me for. Okay, so this portion brings in this portion here. Uh, but I think this is more to be done inline, so I'm going to hold off. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to slap that in there. Woof, woof. All right, I'm Anglo, so I'm going to add the extra O's here for woof. Now, let's run it. Oh, yes. Yeah, Chad is going to be so proud because he's going to think that I came up with this on my own, but no, I didn't. Anyways, dog is an object. Let's go ahead and let's build off of Chad's example he had in there, and we'll put dog. Boom, save, and run. Okay, so dog is an object. Nice. And I made him woof.
Coming back, Mario.
Well done.
I'm
So,
coming
anyways, that
back.
Chad, he's kind of a jerk,
I got
but
some
you know,
coffee.
as long as Chad doesn't hear what I'm talking about him
I'm
and
almost
say
back.
that, Chad's kind of a
Oh,
real like slave driver of a teacher. Oh, hey, what's
I'm a
up, bud?
teacher? Oh man, that's good.
All
How's
right.
how's my beard?
Heads up, just so you guys, in case you're not aware, Chad taught a fantastic web development course back in the late 90s, early 2000s over at San Diego State University. And
Oh,
he's pretty keen, man. He was on
thank
the
you, bro.
forefront of the tech back when the web was like, what, 10 years old? Come on. That was some good stuff. Less than 10.
I also taught at United Education Institute, and I also taught it.
UEI.
Yep, and I also taught a couple, maybe 5 years ago at a San Diego something or other. I can't remember the name now, but they're over in Old Town.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, that was
Old Town's
fun.
great. There's a rockin' Baja lobster over there that I'm fond of.
Yeah, I much like yourself, like I like to give people knowledge when I work with them. So I've taught some
Definitely.
inside, I taught even Excel to our accounting team in my last company I was at. Can you believe that? I was so nervous. Thanks for talking about
Nice.
me. Yeah, I'm getting more and more narcissistic. I've been working on my book um, on how to be a narcissist. It's 99 cents on Amazon, and I think it's gonna
Uh,
sell. I think it's gonna sell well. I know you're gonna
you
buy it.
know, you have no choice but to sell a great many items of it. But check this out. So
What do I got?
I I made a dog object, and it has a syntax error, which I'm pretty excited about. An
One.
unexpected identifier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on, homie. I
No,
tried to make a poop function, but
I think an important thing to do would be to first just start off with basic stuff and get that running.
I did. I
Let's
stole it. I mean, I did it all myself,
okay,
and
let's see what we got. Let's
ta-da! So the dog barks, woof woof, and the dog is of type object.
okay, so let's talk about line 18. What location in the stack do we think that that variable is in?
That is probably the global.
Right? Even though it has the var identifier?
I'm gonna say yeah because we're doing it here inside. We're not able to. Oh, the let was the difference between let and var.
Yeah, and depending on how much time you have, I'm ready to tear into this motherfucker. Excuse my French.
Let's do it.
But because I'd like to come up to like understanding the lexical scope of things too and sound smarter than I really am.
Mm,
But I'm gonna say that I don't know 100%. I know that when you use the var keyword inside of a function, it's necessary to keep that inside of a function. Like if you omit that, you might get an error or you might pollute the global namespace. Now, if you do var dog out there with outside of a function, I think it does go to global namespace. So I think we got to figure out how we can get after something. So do me a favor before we do too much object stuff.
mhm.
Are we getting an error right now on the console?
Only because I tried to make the poop function instead of the bark function by duplicating the existing bark function and having a console log with a different chunk of text. Is that something simple such as a missing semi or oh,
You're missing a comma
that's it.
on line 22.
Well, now we know. All right. We'll keep that and then I'll back off. I just wanted to add an extra poop function because I'm juvenile.
Yeah.
All right. What do we think? Run. Nice. Okay.
Did it
It's all
work?
yours.
Let me see. Woof, woof, poop, poop, object. Okay, so I think I'm interested to know. We're talking about variables. We're going to talk about the usage of var. We're going to talk about the usage of let and const. We're going to find out when let and const came on the scene. Was it in ES5 or ES6? But we're going to learn through together the fundamentals and we're going to Google it and we'll put the links inside there. So, how would we know if something is undefined or we're accessing it? We could probably use the window object, right? Because that's group. That's the root. Window is root. Is it
I can
not?
agree with you on that. Yeah.
So if we do window dot dog, what do you think we get? What if we did type of window dot dog down on line 35?
Well, I'd expect it to be object.
Oh, it's already doing it. When you do type of dog right there, it says
Yeah.
object, right?
Yeah.
And it's accessible. You're not having to call a method. It's just sitting there. We're going to assume that's in the tray. But as JavaScript developers, how can we know definitively where it is in the scope? And I'm asking, I don't know the answer. I'm asking, how would we know? Well, we would know for one would be if we did put a window in front of that dot dog, like do window dot dog on line 35.
All right. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's still an object.
So I think that if we now on line 17 made a function and called it like function envelope, and then we now create a scope by moving that curly brace down to down here, now we have function scope, right? Because now var dog is properly using the variable, the var keyword, but it should be not accessible. It's no longer in the global tray. And then, but what happens if we click run? We get undefined at line. Well, actually, I must have did something wrong because you can't call these directly,
Oh, because it's in scope
right?
of
And
the function.
then we just want to call envelope, and we'll probably still get an error. But mostly, I just wanted to like at least before we go writing a bunch of code, I at least wanted to understand block level scope, function scope, global object.
Made a
So
slight correction there.
thank you.
There we go.
So when we run
Undefined.
it, when we run envelope, we get undefined, even though var dog is actually an object, is it not?
Should be, yeah.
Right. So, but when we run envelope, but
It's
down
all
here,
inside the envelope function.
right now, but because if we did some, and again, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I think if we said like var x equals function, can we still call x like this? Let's find out. We still get undefined, but now that x is a function, can we do x dot dog? Can we go type of x dot dog? Will that work? Undefined. So this is the area where we want to know like how can we console log and get into the method, right? And be able to know that we can like how do we execute the function, right? And then how do we get dog?
Hmm.
And I don't really have the answers off the top of my head. A pro would.
Good.
We could hack at it, but
I wonder, would that? No. Well, I think we got to hit up the old Google then.
yeah. And before we jump into functions, we're gonna want to know the difference between like pass by reference or like actually calling a function, which is done with parentheses. You can do a reference to a function with no parens, and it kind of tells where you're stuffing it. Hey, this is a function, and here you go. But it doesn't execute the function. And so, like, you can pass a function around by reference to the function and then call the function at a later time in your code. And so, when we call functions immediately with parentheses, we call them by name with their parens. But you can actually assign a function to something, another variable, but not have parens on it. And it's gonna that new thing is gonna have a reference. It's gonna have a copy of that function, but not yet be executed. But like I'm kind of all over the board, and we'll learn that stuff. But I'm just kind of saying those are more advanced concepts. So, but let's see. We now know at least if we do type of window dot variable, we know that that was a global var. Even though you let's back it up. Like back when we had no function wrapper, no closure, if you will. Even without the usage of var, that thing was in the global. And if we just did window.dog, does that still run? Syntax error, what did I miss? Var dog, window.dog.
Oh, we're missing a closing curly bracket.
Thank
There we
you.
go.
So okay, so it's the same as I could just omit the var keyword and just be like run that, and I still get object, correct?
Hmm.
But I still don't know for sure. I'm telling you honestly here. I still don't know for sure that it's somewhere in the JavaScript interpreter world, assigning the var keyword in the global namespace like we did. Does it still have any slightly different properties? Question mark. We don't know. I don't know, but we it could be found out. And I'm not sure we need to drill into that. But let's just assume that's a global dude. Okay. And it's not the greatest practice for the object, but there we go. We got a global variable. So what's next? What do we want to look at next?
How do we throw that particular dog object into the script.js so it's accessible via the import down on line 37?
Well, I think copy paste, man. Let's try that.
All right. I don't know. It's pretty good.
Sometimes I've had issues with trying to get access to what's in an included file, and so this will be a good head scratcher. So yeah, let's go over to script. I'll take a look on my
Hmm.
screen. So
Okay.
there it is right there. So when this thing gets imported, then we would assume that there's a variable in global called dog, right?
Oh, well, yeah. Now, order of operation 27 is trying to output the type of dog before 29, where it's imported.
So let's move that puppy down then.
Cool, cool.
Literally move that puppy down.
Mhm.
And that's our
Indeed.
show. That's been our show. You know, ever since we canceled the audience, this has been a lot more fun, a lot less pressure. Told everybody come back tomorrow. This is the first video JavaScript live. Don't expect NASA yet. You know, episode
Right.
1000, we're gonna be amazing.
The master.
I kind of predict that by episode 1000 we'll be arguing about the hoisting if it's a real thing or not, and what's the global space. It's gonna be amazing. We'll be so knowledgeable.
Oh, man.
So what do we
Oh,
got?
well,
What
I'm
we,
trying to do JavaScript inside a non-JavaScript tag area, so that's my mistake right there.
it's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna check out my beard while you make those mistakes.
You go ahead and do that.
It's completely digital. Did you know that? I can't really grow a hair on my face, so this has all been brushed in with a plugin called El Broche, La Brocha.
Hey, look at that. It worked.
It worked.
So,
Dog.poop.
so 29 imports that script.js file. Script.js assigns a var, a hard assignment of dog and the object, etc. So there you go. And when we tell it to poop, it outputs poop.
Nice.
You see?
Yeah.
Nice.
So how would you? Let me get a look. Is there a way to split screen this bad boy, dude? So we can also look at the include files.
I'm gonna try.
Please do.
I'm trying to drag it, but wait for
Change
it.
all the format document. Command palette. I think you've got me come over to the replit side. I want to go revisit the old video where I was like, we're not gonna do it, and then I was like, oh shit.
It's not about who's right or wrong, but I was right. And
Yeah.
you know,
I actually lost the replit screen now. How do I go back? There's a talk button. Holy crap! There's people in this system. They talk to us. My replets.
don't switch
Unnamed.
the fellas. There, I sent you the link that I
Horizontal
was on.
burdensome.
Or if you go back to your main replit screen, I think
I,
it'll be sitting there.
I figured it out. I got decades of experience.
You're pretty smart. I got to give you
Thank
credit,
you.
man.
Well, with the tight hat, I get 2 points boost. Let's
Well,
go. It's tight.
dear friends.
I'm sure everybody logged up. I know. You know, I see the analytics and it's like everything's going good, and then like one bad joke, and they're like,
Yeah,
so maybe there'll be some
well,
new people dialing in right now. So
forget it.
for everybody dialing in, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mario. It's your
I
show.
was gonna say, I'm just looking up on Google how to maybe do a split screen of two nuggets.
A replit.
Wow,
I guess I
not
could.
per
I could probably. You know what? I'm sharing my Scrizine. I could probably just duplicate this Scrizine to another tab. Let's try that. Why does it not say that we're live in JavaScript channel? Let me check. I feel like Restream screwed us, man. Oh, we're live now. Edit that. Sorry, Restream.
I mean, I think you guys are great.
Yeah. So what I'm doing, boss, is I'm pulling up two tabs side by side, and I'm going to click JavaScript in one window, and then next to it is going to be the one that's with the HTML. Okay? Done. Done magic. Magic done. All right, so what's next? What are we doing next? What are we learning next? Are we learning stuff about the scripts of JavaScript?
Well, I definitely like the dog object. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Can we pass a parameter? Let's pass a parameter.
I was just gonna say, yeah, let's maybe be able to create its pass a parameter for its name.
Its name. The dog's name? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it, bud.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Now, what we need to make that a function though, because the object itself, I don't know if you can create an object by passing a parameter. Don't you have to encode that within a function? Pass it a variable.
Well, let's get our nomenclature right, because so if you do have a function called poop,
Hmm.
and then you have a function called bark. So these are the things that the dog can do, right? It can
Yes.
poop and it can bark.
Yes.
But you want to call maybe you make a function called like name or
I like.
name, yeah.
I'll
I
probably do this.
no, I don't think you need to do well. Good point. Good point. Because your functions are like you have a couple functions on line 4 and line 7. So why don't you go ahead and just repeat that, like, and put another function in there that takes a parameter. Yeah, and then just return the name.
Is it? Does it use self
There's
or
no
is it?
such there's no such thing. You can use this, but you don't need this.
Hmm.
Just return the name. Actually use the return keyword. Just return the name.
Oh, I wanted to name the dog
You're going to name the
after I
dog.
created it because
Well,
that's gonna return his existing name.
no. Just use the keyword on line 10. Return. Let's try. Maybe you're right. Just put return the name.
But we
Now,
never assign it to that on line 2, his name.
you can set a default up in there in the parameters there under the function method where it says the name.
Ah,
You can set it. No, no, you do it up here. I think you can do name equals default name. Something like that if you want. I think you can do that. We don't need line 10. So basically, by default, when you call this thing, and you basically, I don't know, let's try it. But I don't think we need this. Let's just get rid of this. Um, you're basically passing a function. Let's go run it on our side. I'm going to go over to index. Is this saved automatically?
yeah.
And this is where I might make a big faux pas. But dog is the object comes into memory and it already has some capabilities. Like it has a function that when called returns whatever you pass it. So we're going to call it dog dot, what'd you call it? Name? And then
Name. He's named Charlie by default.
I'm going to press Charlie and go like that. And then I'm going to console.log. I'll put it into a variable. So I'll say var my dog is equal to my dog name is equal to dog.name passing Charlie, and then we'll console log that guy. And I really think it's going to be wise for us to look at an example of this stuff instead of making a bunch of mistakes. But let's see if this runs. I, I have low. So syntax error, unexpected identifier, dog is not defined. I see your point there. Dog not defined. Why is that? You got dog.poop. Oh, I didn't call the method properly. Did I?
Dog 32 3.
The function is called name. Let's call it the name. What's the name of your functions? Oh, those are just anonymous functions. I see. The name, and then it takes a parameter function. So the name, it really is. So what do you think's happening there? It's like a property. And let's just hack and have some fun.
I
So
think.
console.log. Like you're able to call the dog.poop function, correct?
Yeah, that worked fine.
Yeah,
It
so
just looks
can
like
you move your
getters and
cursor?
setters is
Can,
what this falls under, right?
not exactly. Let's get into that in a little bit. Get classes are not really classes in JavaScript, and you can do getters and setters, but you literally have to go get a library to do it. So we should really not, let's just wait a little bit before we jump on that. But so var dog name equals. So how can I call? So dog.poop works. I called this the name, and that should just be. If I just wrap that in, were you getting? How were you getting them to log out? Were you console logging them, or you just call the method? Like dog.poop was returning something.
Yeah, it's built into the script.js part.
Let me take a look. Oh,
Go back to the
they
console
console
logs.
log that. Okay. Yep, I got you. And I really wish you would move your cursor. Okay. Dog dot name. I can't see when it's there. Yep. One more. All right. So I'm gonna console log instead of dog.poop, I'm calling dog.thename. I'm passing in Charlie. It should actually just return Charlie, right? Let's script line 3. Dog is not defined.
Oh, comma.
Oh, my bad. Let's run it again. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, so you can see we got it out. Charlie.
Right. But it's not replacing the on script.js. It's not replacing the actual name variable on line 2.
I hold on. Line 2. Yeah, because that's dog.name
Yeah.
and you want to set a default. That's not where that is. This function has scope too down inside
Yeah.
this object.
Yeah.
So we're passing. So you created a function called the name,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes one parameter called the name. And so if you wanted this up in here to get down in here, maybe if you call it the name, it might make it there. I don't think so as a default. But like normally we wouldn't. Look, there's ways to do defaults in params, and it would be down here. The name equals. It's a default. Not we'll call it Chad. So I guess it's a style of like wanting to come up with default. You did it in one of your scripts, right, with artificial galaxies, where you had the default value versus whatever got overridden.
Yeah.
So we could look at that example, but I'm gonna go back over to index. I'm just gonna run this. Poop poop Charlie. So Charlie still came back. It did override, but if I don't pass it anything, what do you think will come out?
Nothing.
Chad, because I set it to
No.
default Chad.
Learning.
I guess I wouldn't say that that's the best way to do that. And in fact, I guess I got to keep arguing for the fact about JSON is for data. You're not going to control APIs and the data comes in. Sometimes APIs will bring you functional objects with data embedded in them specific to what you're trying to do to make things more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is an object. Is it a data object? You would have to say that as the architect. You'd be like, yeah, there's going to be data in this file. It's generated and there's values in it that I care about. Another person could argue that you're making a widget factory and that there shouldn't be any hard coded values in it. And if they were, we would want defaults like fill in your name or no name passed or something human readable like error you didn't fill in a name, like that kind of stuff. So but I mean there's probably a way that you could have set default values up there. What you doing?
I'm just, messing.
Cool. I like it.
I'm enjoying.
I'm not sure exactly what we learned either, but I think everybody who's the one person in the audience learned that we didn't read the book. We're just hacking at it. Let's keep going. Time check. I got about 7 minutes left, so no pressure.
All
But
right.
I'm kidding. I meant to say 700 minutes left on this video. So yeah, that's interesting. You do name Charlie. Now you could get access to that and stuff it in as your parameter over in index.html. You could do dog.name as your parameter. Uh,
What?
no, you're not going to have that. I don't believe that's going to be in scope, and that's not what I meant. Um,
Let's see.
yeah, you're going to get stuff,
I'm gonna get stuff.
and
Okay.
stuff is going to be undefined unless you pass something.
Wait, was that give
Because
name?
because we can't see your screen, let me go back. Yeah,
Here.
you called it give name, so line 34, I'll comment that out. Be sure to wrap it in console log.
Oh yeah, that's right. Console log. All right. And
So much less fun. Are you typing? It's not showing you. Here we go. It's give name.
yeah, that's him.
What are you doing? Console log dog.name. All right.
Okay. So it still gave Charlie. Boom.
Right, because that's what you console logged out was Charlie, but you didn't console log out 33.
Ah. Well, I in the script.js, I tried to assign that name, the past variable, and it didn't like that.
Right, it's expecting that we pass any, it could just be called param. We pass something in, then you made name equal to whatever you passed in, and then it returns name. But then back over here in index.html, where you act on line 33, where you actually call dog.giveName,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't console log line 33, so we're not going to see it. So put console.log in front of line 33 and wrap it in parens.
Oops.
There you go. Just don't forget. Yep, exactly. Let me run it on my end.
Uh,
We get poop poop slap Charlie.
nah.
Oh
Okay, so
God.
yeah, it wasn't working like I was thinking it was gonna.
I just hope that everybody out there knows that we spent hours preparing this script prior to the show. And to make it say poop poop slap Charlie. This is just amazing.
We don't advocate violence towards animals at all. We're just using this for a JavaScript demo. We love
Yeah.
animals. They should be treated with dignity and respect.
And JavaScript should be too. So we probably won't want to do console logs in our include JS file very often. It's also something like, yeah, I mean, let's mix it. Let's pick one over the other. So it's why we're doing console logs out here, or we could do them all in there, but it's up to you. But
Don't
let's not,
stop.
you want to do them all in the script. Okay.
No, we'll
Uh,
cut them out.
I would say, no, I would say since we call the methods from inside the index HTML, we should keep the console logs here
Oh,
because we know we're calling the method and we're getting back what we want. If we make this other linked file and we're doing everything in there, this is about interop, you know? So so basically in script.js, it's not console log anymore. Let's not use that as a logger. Um, all right, so what's next on this method stuff? So did you understand kind of what happened? You've brought in an object that had a function inside of it. You're able to pass parameters to that. It can do stuff for you. So that's cool. Good job.
yes.
Yes.
Dang it.
You having fun? Wonder why we're getting an undefined.
Oh, I pulled out give name.
Hmm.
Oh, undefined. Hmm.
No, we've been getting that the whole dang script
Yeah,
down.
line 30 is outside of the scope of when we include. I think when we include it.
Let's chuck it. We're not using it.
Hmm. Wait for it.
All right. So I think we have. So the problem I guess we have with script.js is that it's bringing in a global. Like if we were to release this as a like a library, I can't even say it.
Mhm.
We would want to make sure it would come in encapsulated. And there's lots of examples about how jQuery does it. They wrap their entire set of code and they cast it to the dollar sign. And that way, whenever you want to reference any of the methods inside of their bag of methods, it's dollar sign, parentheses, then method name. So it keeps everything nice and protected.
Hmm.
Right now, our script.js file is bringing in a global. So let's figure out how we can do an audit, what's called an IFI. So if you Google it on your side,
Oh yeah, I watched a great video the other day.
yeah, me too, dude. It was by the guy who wrote "You Don't Know JavaScript,"
That one dude.
the dude, and it was too bad it was a paywall. But I'll put an example of it in the comments as well. And there it is. It's on line 16 to 18. So you probably want to try sticking that into our script.js. I think. I'm gonna do another Google while you're making dogs poop.
Yeah.
Let's see. How to encapsulate a library closure. What would it be called? Iffy $. I really don't know. We could just look at jQuery and see how they did it, but immediately invoked.
I better read that iffy article.
I mean, no reason why we can't talk about it right now. What is it's? It's got a style to it that automatically invokes. It stands for immediately instantiated function execute. I don't know what it stands for, dude.
Immediately invoked function expression.
Function expression. Thank you. Damn close. So it just auto executes.
Okay.
So if you do like var my var equals an iffy, it's there's a Medium article about it. We should probably play with it, but they're very popular according to that video we saw the other day.
It
And
must be true then.
yeah, I'm gonna look up jQuery and see how they're instantiating the $sign jQuery, and go to jQuery.com, and then I'm going to take a look at how they do it. I really want to just see the dang thing. jQuery sizzle. What the hell? Where is the CDN? jQuery CDN. Do you feel like that lunch thing coming on soon? How you feeling, man?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Is this what you would hope that this video would have been? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I feel it was a lot more concise and we were zeroed in on some pretty, substantial portions of some basics of JavaScript instead of flying all over the place like we have in the past. Because
Okay.
my mind goes a mile a minute, so it kind of made me stay tuned in on that. So
Good, because I mean,
yeah,
I know something's good when you're happy, because I was feeling the opposite, man. I was not. I'm just kidding.
Chad was
I
like,
was like,
I played the
this
idiot.
this is
This,
terrible.
this is not
No.
good.
All right. You can't see my screen, but I want you to go look at the method over. I'll go pass it back over to Replit and forget what's there on line. Look, check out my line 20 and go to that. And it's an unminified version of jQuery, which is why we're live in React.js Live, I guess. And there's a way. So notice on after the comments where it says like it has everything in those star comments,
Hmm.
right to where it says function global factory.
Hmm.
Notice that first thing is a paren.
Yeah.
And then you scroll all the way down to the bottom. Notice that it ends in paren and a semicolon. And then inside of that, one line up at the bottom, it says return jQuery.
Dang.
So, and then the jQuery function gets set up somewhere down here. Let's take a look for where it first gets mentioned, where it's actually used. Right around, yeah, right down there. It says jQuery equals function selector context. But somewhere in this whole dilly bob, they choose the keyword $sign, and that becomes the shorthand for using jQuery. So I'm gonna look for that. And there's,
Oh,
yeah, you find it?
oh, I found window $ equals underscore $.
That's the kind of stuff that they did to make it so you could shorthand all the junk that they have in this big bag of property mix and not have collisions. They also were pretty competitive back in the day. There were, I think, no, I forget the names now, Moo Tools and others. I think one other ones, maybe it was Prototype, the library. They used the $sign too. So it was like jQuery is like, no, we're going to use it. We're jQuery, and it just really encapsulated stuff. So I'm trying to find like a mini version. I saw a Stack Overflow. How to make $sign your wrapper methods and wrapper classes, JavaScript, I guess. We just want to like make something that we import that doesn't have collisions but is accessible. How do I wrap a function in JavaScript? I mean, try just if you make an iffy in your include, it's gonna automatically invoke whatever's inside of there, and it's accessible. What's his name says when he made his iffies, he always names them.
I
And
remember.
and the trick to and the trick to execute them was the two following parentheses, right? So why don't we try something like that? Let's make this thing a method, but
Oh,
it's probably going to be something like, oh God,
maybe I should make a backup before I start breaking stuff.
go for it.
Uh,
Bulletproof functions in JavaScript. Why use function wrappers? This okay, var bound who this equals function who this dot call them. Yep. Profiling. Mixins. Here we go. Mixin patterns in
huh.
JavaScript are often used to augment a prototype method. We got a lot of basics to cover, man. Really, we're going to go from the ground up. Rise and grind. Cancel every Sunday for the rest of your life.
That's already happened.
Good. Good. Back to hacking. Hi. Okay. I feel like I've taken us down a road that we weren't quite ready for when we haven't even finished looking at scope or variables. But yeah, try making a wrapper function around your object. Then we can call, we'll know it'll be accessible in memory, but we're going to make it automatically invoked.
Yeah, it's weird. It's that part that I can't get my head around is it automatically versus assigning it to something like you instantiate an object or you assign a variable. You var something equals
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, well, if you look at line 16, right? Line 16,
Okay.
um, that by doing that, it's basically anonymous in index.html.
Gotcha.
It's basically an anonymous function. It has no name.
Hmm.
And the trick on line 18 with the trailing two parentheses there,
Yeah.
that's going to automatically invoke it. That just causes it to execute.
Hmm.
So I think we can just cheat and go put this in script.js, and I'm going to put it at the top, and I'm going to put it right there, and then I'm going to take line 3 that it's currently at, and I'm going to go put it at the bottom of everything. So now what we've done, besides making a mess, is we've encapsulated var dog into this. Whoops, it's saying it's saving, so I don't know if. Okay, it's good. We've now encapsulated that variable dog, so we're not polluting the global namespace now.
Hmm.
And this thing is now a function that's going to automatically run. It can do stuff, right? So like if I wanted to do like have it go fetch me data, or if I wanted the console log, or if I wanted to manipulate the CSS or do anything automatic, it's just going to happen because we included it in index.html.
Huh.
This remember this is an iffy, a function,
Yeah.
and this closures down here,
Right.
these last two parentheses, if I took these off, this thing will not execute. I don't believe.
Right.
So we basically put a wrap around it. It doesn't have a name. It's just generic. It's going to land on the global tray in the compiler, and it's going to say this guy wants this stuff executed. And on line 2, 3, or anywhere we want, we can do stuff. But one thing we do have here is these parentheses on line 1 and 17. That's an envelope. This now gives us functional scope. So now that we're at functional scope, and on line 4 we do var dog equals this object as its value, we've
Hmm.
now encapsulated this. So the thing that I don't know is how we're going to get access to this thing without knowing it by name, right?
Yeah.
So now let's try it. We may not be able to. Maybe there's a way, but it's an anonymous function at this point, right?
Yeah.
So if we do console.log, what would output something? I didn't look at our script, but it was
Oh, bark.
what dog.bark.
Yeah.
It will do something. Okay. So if I go console log dog.bark method, it'll just give us a console log over there if it's accessible. Yeah.
Should. Yeah.
But we now have it wrapped in a function, So we get reference error, dog is not defined,
Oh,
right? So
yeah,
because it's in that anonymous function with no name, we have a reference error.
yeah.
Says it right there, reference error. So
Okay,
how?
it's
Yeah.
scope. Yeah, you're right. Hmm.
So back over in script.js, we could make this thing that's called function with parens. How did that guy say that he named his functions? Was it like function blah like that,
I
or
thought it
was
was inside the last. Well, I know he passed variables in with that last set of parentheses down there on line 17, but I don't know. Yeah, why not? Let's try that.
right?
Blah.
Okay.
All right.
So we're gonna say that when you call blah function blah, that we're gonna console log. I already just told you we're not doing this, but now we're doing it blah blah. Okay, just to keep it real confusing for our one watcher out there. This other stuff is gonna still return no bueno. Then we go over to index, and then we do expect some errors, folks. Type error, console log is not a function at blah. Whoopsie, I typed it wrong. Console.log. And then back over to index, and let's run this again.
Whoa.
Blah,
Nice.
blah. So we are able to, so since it is still auto executing, is it not?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we know that there's a thing that's referenceable by name called, it's a function called blah, blah. It's a function called blah. So
All right.
so how can we get access to something inside of blah? Console.log. Do we go blah? Sorry about the function name.
You've chained.
Like we know that out here in line 40, if we go console log blah, and I'm gonna move the console logs out of there so we know that we're getting returns. Whoops. I'm gonna console log blah, and I'm gonna change actually the console return to say you called blah. Well, it auto executes, right?
Yes.
So let's pass a parameter to it. We'll say param, and then we'll console log param. And we know that's all going to be working out here on index because we can just be like, the string that we're passing in is hello. And we run it, and we get reference error blah is not defined. We got a function called blah. So I don't think that we did what he said. I don't think we properly made an iffy with a name. I do know that sometimes people do stuff like this, var blah equals function, right? And then you just be like, now blah is the function that's inside of there. And then over here, we can just call blah. Token var, unexpected token var. It's JS12. What? Yeah, it doesn't like this stuff. Just comment that out for now. Okay, so all this function is it's a variable inside our auto executing function, but we're giving it a name called blah. Hopefully that gives us a handler. We're gonna look this stuff up right now and find out for sure, because there's
Mm.
different ways to do this, and clearly it's like not something I got like purely memorized here. But if we go and I'll turn off the other stuff, and we just want to be able to call blah and pass in hello or whatever, and we run it, syntax error, unexpected. What is that mad at? Script JS line 1, 2. It does not like usage of var like that. Why not? Guess you can't do that. It's time to Google it, brah. Um,
Man.
types of ifs. Function, construct, and JavaScript. I used to know what this meant, but I'm struggling now. Is this basically saying document.unload? Okay, that's an auto inc. Okay, var foo window.load foo. Okay, these guys are talking about a pretty good one over here. I'm gonna send it to you.
Yes.
This is a pretty good Stack Overflow. Coming up on line 22.
Roger.
So let's give that a read. I'm just gonna just mumble over here. Oh, we got some ES6 arrow functions. Are we finally gonna bring ES6 into the mix? Let's see. Foo
I don't
arrow
know.
function foo value.
Pretty good.
Since this is a pretty popular topic, it's worth mentioning that ifs can also be written with ES6 arrow function, which I heard Douglas Crockford says he doesn't like arrow functions because they look like operators, but that's for us.
Ooh,
He's keeping it real for us old guys like me.
that guy.
But let's get our head around ifs. This guy got the same problem with the 812 vote. He says foo is unreachable here. It's undefined. The function is executed right after it's created, not after it's parsed. The entire script block is parsed before any code is executed. Also, parsing code does not automatically mean that it's executed. If, for example, the IFI is inside a function, then it won't be executed until the function is called. So maybe we don't need an IFI to automatically execute. We just need
Check it.
what you got.
I got it working. If you hit run, it prints foo, because on line 36 of index.html, I do a global variable foo equals foo. And then I include ify.js, which accepts foo and outputs foo, because that's what it was passed to from the index page, assigns it to that inner foo, and then outputs inner foo.
Not sure. Not sure that's correct, but no. If you're going to use a global variable out in index.html, it's going to be a global no matter it's in that included file or not. So you got sandwich, but you're saying you overrode foo?
Foo right there goes into the past foo inside ify.js
Negative.
on line 4.
No, it's not passing it into that file. This
Oh,
file's
sure it is.
okay. So let's
Because
talk.
look,
Just hang tight. Look, this thing index.html is the loader. It's main.
mm-hmm,
So on line, can you move your cursor? On line 36, when you make a global variable called foo, it's sitting in the global tray.
right,
So that means that anything you include in this thing that's going to
yeah,
execute JavaScript is still going to go to the global tray. It's not passing it anywhere. No functions called here. There's no
it is too. In line 37, it's called.
no. Listen, Mario, please don't argue with me on the basics on this one. 37 is just loading an external file into
Right,
memory, but it's
right,
not. But look at my hands. Look, we have a big bucket, and on line 36, you threw in the base of the bucket foo equals sandwich.
right.
It doesn't matter if you call China and include more JavaScript. You are not passing the global into the file that we're now loading into memory. Here you're
How's it printing sandwich?
because it has access to the same bucket. Like like you throw something in the bottom of a bucket and then you throw a bunch of other things in there,
Right,
they it also has access. So look, this little script comes in and it does stuff. It comes into memory too. So just watch my top down cursor. Line 36 brings this into the global tray.
right,
Line 37 and sets it. Line 37 brings whatever you brought in into the global tray bucket too.
right.
Because this is sitting in the global tray bucket and you've got some logic in here, it can access the thing that you set up here in 36, but it was not, maybe it's just terminology here.
Uh-huh.
It was not passed to your file. More accurately, your included script has
Yeah.
access to that global variable.
Click on run.
Yeah, and I know it's going to run, but I'm trying to tell you a key terminology here. You did not pass the variable to the script. The script came into this. This whole thing we're looking at is main. It's
Click on
the.
run.
I know it's going to run.
It's not going to run. I changed the
Oh,
variable name to foot instead of foo. And when you click on run, it fails.
what? Okay, man.
Yeah,
No,
you were
no,
passing it.
no, dude, it's not.
Yes,
No, it's not. Like
it's
serious.
true.
Okay, look. If we're gonna have to beat this to death, look. This is script.js, right? This is our iffy.
Yeah,
The way you pass things to scripts, all this is bringing is an automatic function that does nothing. Console logs a param, and it's a var blah. Like this could be nothing. Like don't console log anything. Okay, and then you were saying console log param was passing sandwich through here.
yeah. If you change it back to foo instead of foot, it'll print sandwich. And if you take a look in the index
I
on
know.
line 25,
Look,
there's a link.
change it back, so we can see it run and we can talk through the execution scope again. I don't want you to get confused about what, the global tray and something that gets instantiated and what's referencing what. It's all in the same bucket. So okay, so var foo, let's run it for everybody out there. It returns sandwich. Blah is not defined at whatever.
Yeah,
So this script is nothing. So what? Why is it still printing sandwich then?
on line 4 of iffy.js, it's accepting that foo variable that was passed in the line before on index.html.
Well, just please bear with me because I'm going crazy here. We have a variable called foo equal to sandwich,
Right,
and then right down here, are you saying when I console log blah hello, there's nothing, right? That's where we're getting that one error.
right.
And then you're saying that by executing this, it's going to give us sandwich.
Yes. Yes.
And then let me just go back and just bear with me.
Or take a look at the article I listed on line 25. That's where I got that from.
On line 25, let me take a look.
Did you see?
No, that doesn't make sense. But I'll take a look at the article. Why would it automatically log out the variable just because you included an iffy?
Because that variable was passed to it, declared back in index.html. Did you
Well,
see?
no, well, yes and no, but dude, look, what I'm trying to say is that the web page, in this page, we instantiate a variable, okay, and it ends up in global tray. In this page, we include a script. This one right here, script.js, right?
Yes.
And then so iffy.js, where's iffy.js at?
Over on the left, right above index, or above script.js in Replit.
I'm not seeing it. I got to reload my page. Okay, then maybe that's what I was missing. I kept looking at script.js.
Oh,
I did
okay.
not realize. Hang on one sec. Let's see what's up. Well, I guess the point I still want to drive home with you is that the global bucket got set outside of the script that you included. So they're all just players in the bowl. It doesn't, I'm not sure until I can see what iffy.js looks like. It's still loading. Did you have, you passed a parameter? Okay, my bad. One sec. It's not loading for me. Let's
Oh,
see.
homie. All right.
Did you save?
Yeah, it says saved.
Okay, I see it. Okay, function inner foo, console log inner foo.
Line
Foo.
4 is the one that actually brings that one in from index.html, throws it into line 1,
Okay,
and then
okay, I got it. Okay, let's just pick a yes. Okay, you're almost 100% right. I wasn't seeing the script, but let's just get it just clear enough that just so you know that before than anything, this is our bucket. This web page is our entire bucket. Out here, we instantiated a variable into the root of bucket. Then you brought in a script into memory.
mhm,
Then that script executed inside of the global scope, or because it's brought in,
yeah,
and it utilized this here. Then it did what you said. At that moment, it did pass. Okay,
yeah,
just so we can be clear on that. And I think I'm just like beating words here, but I just wanted to make sure you understood and I'm clear.
I understand the global scope here. That can be called from anywhere in another JavaScript file or
Yes, yes, yes. And maybe
function.
maybe I didn't understand that you already knew that. My bad. Okay,
Yeah.
but let's understand what's so you're able to pass. That's really neat, by the way. Good job. The ify.js. You're now. What do we need interfoo for?
Oh, inside, that's just a parameter name for it in scope.
So this is how we can talk to an anonymous function without having to get it by reference name.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Only taken into the fact that you got to take into account it's going to be executed instantly. So you better have everything cocked and ready.
So how can we? Why don't we migrate this over to our script.js? I
Um,
swear I'm sitting there hitting script.js and there's like nothing in it, and I'm like, how is this?
I don't.
I
All
just
right.
gotta read the code.
All
So
right. So
let's get our
do
thing
you want to
working.
do the entire dog?
No, 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 no. We want to get that to exit. We essentially want to protect everything and not use globals. So yeah, and we already sort of had an anonymous on line one. Yeah, we just need that top guy. I'm gonna
So
go.
far, and that's where it's choking out on.
Yeah, ditch that shit. One sec.
What Chad doesn't know is we've secretly replaced his regular decaffeinated coffee with new Folgers Ultra with 4 times the amount of caffeine. Let's see if he notices. Okay, let's see. I'll be back.
Oh man, I'm so glad we're doing this together live on TV. How you doing?
Dude, I'm so excited that I know the answer to globals. So excited, I'll be right back.
I know. I just did the same thing. Is it running? Let's run it.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I'm gonna make a change then while he's gone. We'll keep this going. God, it was getting heated there for a minute. I wasn't even looking at his file, but now he's gone. We can talk about him. So yeah, the other day Mario and I we were arguing over silliness. I swear I was looking in script.js and I just overlooked it. He's like, I make an iffy dot whatever, and the lesson is read the code. That's a good lesson. And then he's got this thing he's calling foo. Oh God. All right, so now we're up to date, and we go over to index, and we could ditch the iffy, I guess. We don't need it. Let's go like that. Nope. Are you back, man? I see your cursor moving, man. Let's see what we got. Console says nothing. And then we got script.js, foo, script.js, pass it to foo, inner foo. I'm going to console. Whoops. I hear you, Mario. I see your cursor too. Everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, I've caught up some of the code. I'm here to say good job because you were right. You're so right. Console log inner foo. We passed it along. Oh lordy, it's not easy learning cheesy. Cool. Okay. So what's the lesson we learned, folks? Is that I shouldn't have ate those tacos earlier, man. No. Is that when someone makes a new file, you need to tell the other person that they made it. That's my excuse.
Oh man, I didn't even know. I thought it would just magically show up for you. Sorry.
No, I moved everything over to script.js. No, dude, that's awesome. Um, good. So like we can also get a little bit ES6 and off that article I gave you, and we can convert it to an arrow function, which we'll do in a minute. But I just want to like study what you did here. So because we have an auto immediate invoked function expression, right, an iffy, we're able to pass along a parameter through those extended parens that auto execute it. You can pass it along to the inner, basically the inner. This is an inner function right here, an anonymous inner function, and then it returns inner foo. So when I click run, I get sandwich, whoop-de-doo. Cool.
Nice.
And then I want to check out that article you gave me there. A drip of JavaScript. Jesus.
What was the whole point of if he's making like one-off singleton type functions that you wouldn't have to deal with down the road and would not cloud the entire scope, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I kind of liked what that guy videos said, right? He just because he would do like you could do like function like name like function name and then have a function and then down there you have to like call the function by name, and he felt like that was clouding up by using like additional names. He's like, just have this thing auto execute. So we want basically you have an object that has functions in it and you want it in memory, but we want to encapsulate it so that we don't pollute the global namespace. So we wrapped it in an IFI. The IFI will auto execute. I don't think we necessarily had to do that to bring in a method that we could call by name that has the object. But think about it like this. Because of this IFI, we call it into memory by referencing it. It's going to automatically be in memory as an object just waiting for us. If we didn't want that, let's say we had like 50 objects we wanted to bring in, but we don't want them all in memory just yet. We want to call them like on switch, like we want to call them by function name, then we probably wouldn't use an IFI. We would probably just include a set of functions that come into memory that we can reference by name, and when we want to call them, then they bring that full object into memory and we can use it.
I'm sure they got their use cases. I mean, there's got to be a reason they're so popular out there and people are talking
What did the guy say in the video? He said it was probably one of the most important things. He liked to put closures inside of his IFIs.
Yeah,
So
he was also, I'm sure, peddling his book. So
yeah, but he's the guy who wrote "You Don't Know JavaScript." I mean, he's almost like this a demigod in the area of JavaScript. So why are IFIs popular? I'm gonna look.
yeah, yeah.
Immediately invoke functions explained. So the guy even said hoisting is not a thing, but these guys are saying it here. He's like, it's a made up concept. Immediately invoked function, pronounced IFI, is a JavaScript design pattern often used to minimize naming conflict and create private variables.
Okay.
So the conventional format for an IFI is to enclose the whole function within the grouping operator set of parentheses and leave it unnamed, i.e. anonymous. The additional set of parentheses at the end is what immediately invokes it. Before we get into IFIs, I can't wait to go back and watch that video of me flipping out because I was looking at the wrong script.
I know. I gotta figure it out now.
Function declaration versus function expression. A function declaration, synonymous with function statement, requires the keyword function, what follows function, and a function body, what's between the curly braces. When a JavaScript file or HTML document containing JavaScript is loaded, function declarations are hoisted or moved up to the top of the code before any code is executed. So it's the old school way where you use function, do something, and etc. Okay, so an IFI is an expression. So it'll auto execute. An expression is any valid unit of code, blah, blah, blah. IFIs help to minimize naming collisions. Do you want this link?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'll just sit here and read to you all day.
It's story time with Chad.
You will sleep so good. But that's nice that you found that one link. We captured that one where you showed us the little tricky poo on to pass an argument into an unnamed function, an expression function, versus what did he call it in his article? Let's see if we can't get that down. Function declaration versus function expression. So a declared function doesn't automatically execute its contents either. It just gets loaded into memory.
Yeah.
And it was kind of my point. Like, let's say that Artificial Galaxies is a big time JavaScript application and you have 1,000 objects that may be used by the user, but you don't want them all to have to load into memory because they only use like 20 of them, depending on what they're doing. So you might want to use function declarations instead of an expression that auto executes them in. But then there's this whole protection of private variable. Let's see what they say about that. You can store the iffy in a variable since function expressions evaluate to a function value. So that's where you can do the const result is equal to, and then you do the iffy. And now you can just use result and it'll do the same. So I'm going to paste that in our shared little library thing on starting from line. I'm learning so much from you, Mario. Thank you, man. Starting on,
It's only my ignorance that allows us to learn together. So you're welcome.
right, and my arrogance, it's like, we don't got to look it up. Line 27 to 32. Notice that he's, hey,
Global scope is pretty important.
are you
Want
just
you to
saying
understand global scope.
that? Scope is important if you have a date and you got bad breath. So let's see. Oh, but down, bam, 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 bam. Line 27. Const result equals, and so this is where they've now set a constant result is equal to function. Now, if we were to do that in our include, would we still be creating a global by using const?
Are we assigning it to a const though? Yeah. I mean, it's still anonymous inside the function, but you're still assigning it. Huh.
Well, I guess more instead of the usage of var versus const, where do they end up in the tray? Is const, can you make a const global variable? Like, is a const a global variable? Is a const a, I would assume yes, but is a const a global variable? Global constants and global variables. A constant which is needed in more than one function can be declared a global constant by declaring it a constant using the reserved word const, initializing it and placing it outside the body of all functions, including the main function. And I just said that off the top of my head. I swear I didn't read that. No, but it's true.
See?
I
It's
lied. You can see it on my screen share if you saw it. But so it is global if you do const or var or even let, I think, in the global tray. Okay, now we know. So ES6, an idiot's guide to let and const. Ooh, that sounds good for us, dude.
I like it.
Shall we click it over? What'd you have for lunch? How's your hunger status?
I don't know. I think I maybe got another 10, 15 minutes in left for this session, and then I think we should do a nice, concise review at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Um, 10 or 15 minutes, and then it's what, grab food like we did last time, and then the wrap it up story, or
I
how
think
we're
so.
feeling. Yeah.
I like the wrap up just because I feel there was a lot more meat to this session, and we got a lot more done. We seem to be a lot more like focused on some of the basics, and we shored them up. We talked them through with each other, and we figured out what the deal was. We didn't let each other off the hook either, because we're like, "Do you understand?" Well,
I
no.
want you to understand that I got hangry. I'm hungry, hangry hunger. Um, I'll tell you for sure that there is web pages I've seen that break down the usages of how to assign an iffy to a variable, how to use it by reference, how to call the variable reference, and also with closures. So we should keep revisiting this until like, no, maybe not today, but we should keep really be revisiting the idea of scope and blocks and ifs and soon the arrow function and closures. In that guy's video, he really talked heavily about the iffy with closures. And he's like, those are the two most important things, like encapsulation. So we didn't really touch on that stuff. Um, but I feel like you're right. We learned some stuff. It was a lot of review and we made some links. Still a lot to learn, you know,
Oh,
just around
totally.
these subjects. So
That's why we're here.
yeah, I think that I could probably do with starting some food here pretty quick, but um,
Yeah. Why don't you slap on guys for a
um,
temporary
well, how about this? I got my headphones on. You're the boss, man. You found that pass parameter through the auto invoking expression paren area. It makes so much sense now that that's where that would go.
Yeah, but Also, I'm still trying to get my head around a use case for these. I mean,
Well, it said for private variables, dude. That's
with
what.
compartmentalizing all of these into like,
Okay, then let's before we go running off to make tacos. Do we not have it encapsulated in script JS? Right? We do, right?
OJS.
Okay, so this will bring it home. I hope. So var is an object, is it not?
Yes.
But it's encapsulated. So if we just choose on line 18, if we say return dog, then now we have this function that's automatically invoked. We can pass a parameter and it will obviously console log something out. But also when it executes, it's going to return the dog object.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah,
So that, and then that thing, I think it should. Oh, I might have had that wrong, dude. It still might not be accessible because we have no name by reference. So maybe like when we pass something in, like maybe we pass in a value, we want to return, instead of doing a console log, we want to return dog, right? But then where will dog be?
yeah, because we don't assign it
Well, you did assign it here, var dog on line 6.
in. Oh, there we are in six. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, and then how do we get this thing to console log? Like, how could we get this thing? How could we get access to it? Right? We're still kind of stuck on that. And I,
Uh,
and I, yeah,
do the const whatever equals boom.
right. But that'll still be a global. If
Yeah.
we're so close because the guy even says on his Medium article that it's good for private variables. So I bet if we read it, it's going to show that. But I mean, let's look at it here. Maybe var dog, we'll figure out how to get access to that. But we did have these functions that we know we could get access to, right?
I don't know actually if we can jump into those functions though.
Well, what happens if we do return dog and this thing auto executes? Let's see if we do over here in index and we know that's going to auto execute. So can we just do console log dog.bark? Do you think it'll do something? Probably going to be an error, no?
Well, yeah, because we're not even including the source file, right?
It's right here, script.js.
Oh, script.js.
So, like, why don't we just do type of dog, see if it knows what's up. Type of dog, and see if it even knows it's undefined.
Okay.
So it does not, so dog, even though it's getting returned by the auto executing function, we know we can pass parameters into it.
Mm-hmm.
And how did we do that again? Just by hard coding it down.
On line 47,
Well, in this case, okay, line 47.
on index.html, we assign foo,
Right.
and then that's passed to line 20 of script.js because it's a global,
Yeah.
but we're not returning anything. Can't we say a const whatever equals?
Still be a global. And we're still
That's
dealing with
fine.
globals.
Hmm.
I think we would need a named function, but we still haven't like worked through this enough. But the use case is yes, we want to get away from doing globals if we can. So we know we don't need to do like if we could call a function by name right here, like if we could call if we returned a function, then this is yeah, this is interesting. This thing auto executes as a function. It takes params, but it has no name. So what if we could name the iffy? How to name an iffy? Did I say? I think I saw you yawning, man. I looked away. What does it?
Oh. Sorry. I only had one cup of coffee today.
Yeah, I mean, I just all I drink is coffee, no water.
Kelman say.
Hmm. There we go.
Function expressions do not want a name. I think we're trying to shoehorn a function and these inline immediately invoked function. I think we're trying to use it not in the way it was intended to. The whole
What,
point is to like keep it anonymous, or
but did we not see the guy say that he likes to name his iffies?
yeah, but I don't remember why.
You know what? You can do. I have an example code here, a valid iffy. I found it while we were talking.
A named iffy, there it is.
Yep. Um, and it's. I don't know if it's a. If this one might be actually not an expression. Oh, it says it's a valid iffy function, init game iife, and then you got the parens, and then we could probably still pass stuff up and around it. But then I think we're kind of to that point, like, how do we return something? Like now
This
that,
says
yeah.
says you can name an iffy on one of the other articles, but it says it doesn't change the fact it doesn't leak back into the global scope, and it cannot be invoked again after its execution. So I mean, I think again, it's like the whole point is it's like a one-off. Boom.
Well, we are trying to bring in that dog object that does have functions in it. If we can just bring dog into memory, we can reuse those functions. So, can we try to use one of these named or these declaration functions as an iffy, where it says function init game, like for example, line 35 to 38. Let's just try to, because we want to get reference to something that'll give us reference to dog. Like in script JS, line 18, return dog. I don't think we need to do that yet. Maybe we could, but we just want to know, like, if he's going to execute.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is tough. Let's try. So, all right, I'll try on my end then. I guess you can only just try by hacking. So function init game whatever, but we're going to give this thing a name.
Dear Tony.
It does say function whatever, and then function. What would be a good name? Um,
Oh, a dog factory?
sure. Dog factory function, and it takes a parameter of inner foo. So supposedly this thing is going to auto execute into memory, and then inside of it, it's got this variable called dog equals whatever. So can we return dog?
And where's that article link too, when you get a chance?
Yes, sir.
Immediately
I'm gonna give it to you. Execute it now.
executing.
God, I feel so bad for like harping on that wouldn't work. I was looking at the wrong script. Will you forgive me, Mario? Live on
Forgive.
TV.
It's already given, bro.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm gonna drive over there right now and cry a river. Let me see.
All good. I can't find it. It's right there.
I
What are you looking at? I
was
know.
like, you're like, I understand the scope. We did it, man. We did it. We got the folks over in JavaScript group just loving this video. I'm pretty sure we got one like from No Way. Now that you got that, I'm gonna just run this thing and just see what it returns. We're gonna get
And
sandwich undefined, which is expected, but then we do type of dog. But what if I do type of dog factory? And run that. Sandwich undefined. So what's the point of that? Type of dog factory. Reference area, dog factory not defined. So yeah, why would you want a declaration function that only executes once, and yet we don't have access to it out in main?
yeah, it's strange.
Function dog factory. Did I type it wrong? I guess it's this thing called reading. We have to do so function following to our invalid ifs. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, it's got an init and then an inner called function init. Ugh. Var result. God dang it. Hello 5. Message 3 times. Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to pass it by reference. unless we do exactly like you said, like const something equals this.
Yeah, and again, I think it just goes against what the whole iffy was built for. It's again, it's like it's a one-off instant fire sort of thing, but again, I'm trying to figure out the use case because it's not in the global scope. Its variables and functions internal are not visible to the outside world either. So, you know.
Well, that's one thing about the closures that I know, and we haven't looked at closures, but one thing about closures is there are functions inside of functions. So if we had a function called like envelope, and inside of it it was like letter, and the other one was like page two, you could have those two functions inside of there, and to get like you can call into the parent function and down into the closure functions, and they can have protected variables in there, do work, and they can return back out to the outer. And that gives you some sort of protection using closures. And it's going to be a little bit of a deeper, not a deep dive, but closures is something we want to get involved in. But I mean, like, what that guy's video, dude? What was the point of that? Like, it was a short one. Iffy closure. I want to see the design pattern on that. Why use an iffy closure over a regular closure? Stack Overflow. The difference is that the iffy closure can only be used once, whereas the first one can be called to make a new iterator whenever desired, kind of like a generator.
Mhm.
So I'll put that link in there too, knowing that you're not going to read this later, but just do it. Maybe you will.
God, I can't wait to ignore it.
I know. Okay, and with that, we're going to say, hey, if you know JavaScript, good for you, because we're still figuring it out. But dude, we're onto the right stuff here, man. We got some good links. For all of our jokes aside, for everybody out there who's going along with this ride with us, we are moving into the JavaScript ES6 world. We didn't really touch too much. We wanted to get a stronger foundation in functional versus block. We haven't gotten into const with let, where let is going to be it's going to be scoped to block, whereas the var keyword is scoped to function. It's functional scope. So we've kind of covered a lot. I'm gonna let it sink in and get some food. And then Mario's probably not going to come back because he really is mad at me. I see him mouthing that he loves me. Um,
Hey,
so anything you want to say to my mom and my cousin, my brother who are watching back east out there on live, Mario? You like my
I think
beard?
we can definitely afford to paste all those links inside the actual YouTube description so folks can track down all those articles and go through them at their leisure and see if they can wrap their heads around it if they have questions. And
Yeah.
definitely hit us up on the Discord channel. Provide a link for that too, because a lot of people there that want to learn, and we can just point them towards our videos and our links. Work with a couple of questions. It's a pretty nice community.
Yeah, it is. It's growing, isn't it? The Discord especially. So I think that it's important to state that like this video, man, is about I love you, Mario. I love coding with you. I love getting mad at you when I don't even know what script you're working in. I love when you trick me and you're passing things around and I don't read, and then it's just silliness. But I do think that what I learned from this video so far is yes, I'm hungry, but I also learned that we know our soft points and that we grab some good links. And I kind of consider these like the behind the scenes before we actually say, you know what, we learned this about this, and here's a good set of articles, and here's our article video about it.
Mhm.
I feel like we're gonna revisit this over time. Like as we write code, we'll be stronger in the areas that we're softer. Like, oh, should we use an iffy in this state? Oh, remember we learned the other day that iffy is only executes once, or function declaration versus an expression function. So this is
Mhm.
I'm so glad to be doing this with you, man, because it's not the same doing it on your own.
No,
Much
that's
love.
good stuff. I definitely appreciate it. Again, this is really exposed me to a lot of new ideas and concepts that I haven't run into or had the need to run into. But now that I'm getting into the world of web dev, I'm seeing where it's going to come in handy, man.
It is 3:30, so we were talking about getting food and then maybe coming back. But how are you feeling about it? You want to wrap up, or you want to keep going, or what do you want to do?
I'm feeling like it's time for a wrap up because
Yeah,
once we're off the live stream, then I can just start cursing and stuff because
yeah,
I
buddy.
had to keep it wholesome and professional for so long. I'm kidding. Nah, I had fun. This is good, and we're definitely going to keep circling back every Sunday, making it happen.
Oh no, no. Now I feel like I gotta call you after this and be like, now you're really mad about that function. No, I do that. This has been great. We'll keep this up. I'll put the links like you said. Don't send my call to voicemail when I call.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
this is
Hello, you've
huh?
reached Mario.
That
Unfortunately, I'm not available to take your call.
dude, the links are good. These are good. I'm gonna do my own little studying on my end. The next time we get together, uh, I don't know if we'll be ready for a project. We still got other stuff that you can check out. Constant let all the things that are available in ES6. Um, if you're gonna be interested in classes and getters and setters, go see what that really means in JavaScript. It's not what the same in C sharp. And then let's do some artificial galaxy stuff next week. Also, just keep
Yeah,
coding.
definitely. I'm looking at a few of the React modules inside the documentation that you sent me, and I got a couple of ideas where and how I want to display my data with some fancy widgets and whatnot, some components that'll fold up, fold down, expand.
I love it. All right, we're not gonna end this video without the applause folder. I'm just gonna file. I'm just gonna keep you hanging on.
Hit it.
Here it is. Mario, from me to you, I really enjoy coding with you. I learn stuff. Sometimes I'm stubborn. I can't find your file. I get mad. Figure it out. But I learned something. And my hat's off to you, literally. I got no hair. So let's
Brother.
play it on the way out. All right, hit me up, dude. This has been awesome. This has been awesome. Much love, Mario.
Please, it's all on this side of the camera.
Okay, bro. All right, see you next time. Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Okay,
Later.
bye. Long goodbyes. Oh, shoot. That one, I'm taking that one off air. I'm so sorry, man. I feel bad. I'm like, I sent the videos to unlisted. I know. I was like, what am I missing? It's live TV, no practice. I'm like, bro, listen, you can't pass it. It doesn't just because you included it. I was like, I wasn't paying close enough attention either. But yeah, sorry, dude. Yeah, I feel bad. Oh my god, bro. I only got one programming friend. His name Mario. God damn. Okay, okay. I know it's like every week I'm like, what am I gonna learn this week? God damn it. I'm like, patience. But I'll call you later. Say sorry. Yeah, like fuck it. But it was fucking good TV, man. I did learn some stuff. Thank you. That was fun. Nice. Well, I mean, what's cool is we could probably do like answer back videos. Like I was gonna go read up on it too, do a video and be like, let me show you why you want to use an if you. This is for Mario, and send you the link and be like, so sorry about the other day, Mario. But yeah, it was fun. Man, thank you. I personally, bro, I really need to learn this stuff, and we're pretty deep. So thank you. Deep, deep. Oh, dude, you're telling me. My mic is a fucking coffee stand here. That's all I use it for. But but dude, I will say this: if we could get that screen share, that dual monitor screen share going, I would have saw your screen. I would have put that thing to to blame. You couldn't see mine either. You would have looked right at my screen and been like, dude, I don't see my file on your screen. I'm just saying it'd be helpful, dog. Doggy dog. Bark, bark. Boop, boop. What's dog? Well, the funny thing is that, dude, all of it's funny. Is that always after videos, especially by myself, but with you, I'm like, I have regret. I'm like, oh, this part, that part, fuck. But then, like an hour later, I just don't care. And then, like, this might be good TV, so that's why I didn't delete it. I'm like, I'll just leave it unlisted for now. But it's fucking real shit, dude. It's like MTV credits for coding. I forgot to press say it. Yeah. JavaScript pranks. They'll be like the nerdiest prank show ever. Be like, what? That's not funny. Be like, you deleted the guy's code. Pretty much, bro. And that's what we got to remember. But some random people that we don't know who they are gonna watch that and be like, what the fuck? But dude, great conversation because like in the future, now that we're learning together, bro, I want you to know we really are gonna learn some of the real deep rules. Not deep, the actual rules of JavaScript. Like I've been hacking my way through JavaScript for years, and I know of it, but I want to know like the stuff, you know. So I'm glad we did it. But now we can joke and be like, Ify, you want to make the dog poop? I know what we're talking about. We learned the ifys, dude, a lot. Thank you, Mario. Well, it's why I called too, because I didn't want to. I'm more like this is a lot of fun doing it with you, so I just want to make sure that it's. I mean, I could replace you with some guy named Sandeep. I mean, I will. That's a threat. But I mean, I'll be like, Sandeep, you suck, and everything. I'm just fucking around. No, but no, I was kidding. I'm kidding. But I mean, I enjoy doing this with you, and the last thing I want to do is make it not fun for you. So I hope you have fun. Yeah. React. Yeah. Yeah. Fun stuff. Okay, well, let's try to do a coding session that isn't live also pretty soon. Just so we can just hack around and fuck around. Okay. Okay, man. Please. I, and Replit was pretty awesome, dude. So I do my hats off to you, literally. So okay. Blame it on that. We won't blame it on my short temper. Never blame that. Replit. Okay, I'll see you. I'll talk to you online and smash that like button. Talk to you later. I took it offline. But I'm gonna. It's unlisted. I'm gonna invite you into the channel too, so you can do whatever you want without my help. So I'll talk to you. I'm gonna go tell Noe how I messed things up with our friendship, as I try to say today. There's nothing like a pre-call, post-call, midstream apology. Gonna send a postcard. Still sorry. Okay, champ. All right, study up. Teach me some stuff. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's good content. That's good content. So, yes.